If you peruse personal finance books and articles and influencers, you'll often hear people talk about what you're buying. Are you buying experiences or are you buying things? Are you buying stuff or are you buying experiences? And often they'll tell you experiences are better than stuff. But that's usually where they end it. That's all they talk about. But there is a little bit more to the story. So when we think about spending our money, we're not just trading our money for something. I mean, economically, that's what we're doing. If you look at an economics textbook, I want the thing. I don't want the money, so I give you the money and get the thing. That's a trade, that's an exchange. But psychologically, there's a little bit more to it. And it starts with an experience. So this is that exchange that economists are talking about. But before that, we get to anticipate this experience. So we get to look forward, we get to point towards the experience. And then, once it's over, we get to look back, point back to the experience. So the experience is the actual spending of the money. It's the actual thing that we're paying for. The anticipation is looking forward to the thing that we're going to buy. And then the memory is, of course, living on in our minds as we look back, as we think about this. So let's take a look at each of these individually. So anticipation. Anticipation is looking forward to the thing, looking forward to the purchase, looking forward to the experience. Now, sometimes this is really long. This is like I'm planning a vacation for 12 months or more. And I get to look at where I want to go, and I get to look at what I want to do, and I think about what kind of restaurants I'm going to do, what kind of excursions I might want to do. I get to look forward to that. And there's a certain excitement that comes along with this. And this very often gets overlooked. In fact, when I worked as a financial therapist, I would have people who really wanted to take a really expensive trip, but it wasn't in their budget. They couldn't afford it. So I had them plan the trip. Just plan the trip. What would you do? Just to get a sense, I had a couple of purposes here. One was just let's get a sense of how much this is actually going to cost, because it's common for people to think, oh, it's not going to be that expensive. Well, let's take a look and actually plan this thing. But the second benefit, which I kind of stumbled on this by accident, was it was reported back to me that was almost more fun than taking the trip. I remember one client said specifically, I usually don't even like the trips. It's a hassle, and I don't like the travel, and there's a lot of downtime, and I'm grumpy sometimes, but the looking forward is amazing. The anticipation sometimes gets stripped away from people. If you surprise somebody with a vacation, say, hey, surprise, I called ahead. I got you 2 weeks off of work. We're going to Hawaii. Well, you now deprived that person of this anticipatory utility. You denied them of the looking forward. You denied them of planning, thinking about how they might spend their time, because there's this certain excitement that comes from looking forward to it. Now, it's not always vacations. You can look forward to getting a new TV. You can look forward to getting a new kitchen gadget. You can look forward to spending your money in any different types of ways. But excitement, anticipatory utility, these are things that happen in the anticipation phase of spending your money. Then there's the actual experience itself. And this, again, could be an experience, a one-off experience like zip lining or rafting. It doesn't always need to be this adventurous. Having a great conversation, having a good cup of tea at a particular place. The experience could be something like that. The experience could be longer. The experience could be like a 7-day trip or a 3-day rafting trip or something like that. Or the experience could be buying the television or buying the kitchen gadget or buying the car. So the experience is when you're spending your money. It's what you're spending your money on. It's the act. And this is what most people think about. Now, there's ways to make this stronger. Savoring is a way of slowing down and pausing and letting it all in instead of letting it all be kind of pushed to the background, taking it for granted, if you will. So savoring is a way of slowing down when it's time to experience that experience. So if you're zip lining, take it all in. If you're rafting, if you're having a conversation, take it all in. If it's a purchase of a new TV, say, and experience that TV purchasing experience, but also soak up and savor how you're going to set up that new one at home, and let yourself be lost in the creativity of how are you going to reorganize the room, or where are you going to put this new kitchen gadget, so you can savor your experiences. And psychologists sometimes talk about a peak end rule. And the peak end rule means that of an experience, we're going to remember the end, and we're going to remember the peaks, either high or low. Now, we can't really control the high or low because those are things that happen to us, but we have some control over the end of our experiences. So ways to take advantage of this are to plan a really good ritual, a really good dinner, a really good something on the end of the trip. So that's the thing that you're most likely to remember. Another trip is to mentally cut off your vacation the day before travel day, so that your travel day doesn't muck up the experience. And it's the middle that we tend to forget. So if you've got something boring or something bad you have to do in the middle of this experience, try to bury that in the middle, because then you're going to be most likely to forget it. So the end of our experiences are what's most likely to be taken with us into the third component: anticipation, experience, and then memory. Now, memory is the fact that we had this experience and it gets to live on in our minds. So it stays with us. It's the dividends we get from buying experiences is the memory. And it even gets better because of something called euphoric recall. Euphoric recall says, when I remember the experience, I'm more likely to see the highlights. I'm more likely to see it in a positive light. I'm not likely to remember the bad things. Euphoric recall is interesting because it flies in the face of negativity bias. Negativity bias is more looking forward to keep me safe. Euphoric recall is to say it wasn't that bad. So euphoric recall, this is why you say, I really loved that dinner that we had on that last night by the ocean. It was so amazing. And somebody might remind you, we fought all day to pick a spot. We couldn't pick a spot, and then we got there and we had to wait too long. Don't you remember this? Either you don't, or you say, oh yeah, that's pretty funny. We really were at each other's throats, were we? Right? So even when you remember the negative things, it gets brushed aside and seen in a more positive light. So memories create euphoric recall, and our remembering self gets to have those for as long as we can keep them in memory. Now, this is where the experience and stuff debate really shines, is because when I buy the experience, the zip lining, the rafting, the dinner, the whatever it is, the skiing, I get to remember that trip, I get to remember that experience, and I get to remember that experience with euphoric recall, and I'm going to remember it and take it with me for the rest of my life, for as long as my memory lasts. When I buy a new TV or a new car or a new Nespresso machine or whatever I'm getting, there really is no euphoric, there is no memory, because it doesn't get to go into memory because I see it every day. I see it. There it is. And I get to see it being outdated, and I get to see it, I get to see newer versions come out, and I get to see my neighbors have better versions. So with things, I really don't get the memory that comes with that. But anticipation, experience, memory, these are the three components of spending money, and you can help your clients think about this. Help them when they're planning their expenses. Help them add to the anticipation of it. Help them add to the memory of it. Help them organize their vacations, for example, in such a way that the end of the experience happens to be good. So remember, it's not just about exchanging money for something. We don't just spend money, we anticipate it, we experience it, and we remember it. Hey, Derek Hagen here at Money Quotient. If this was interesting to you, if this is something that you want to learn more about, this is the kind of thing that we teach at Money Quotient. We teach financial advisors communication skills, facilitation techniques. We teach them about life planning. And basically it all comes down to Stephen Covey's quote, "What good is climbing a ladder if it's leaning against the wrong wall?" Or if the ladder you're climbing isn't leaning against the right wall, every step you take just gets you to the wrong place faster. So we help advisors, help clients identify the right wall. So if this is interesting to you, head on over to moneyquotient.com. You can learn about our True Wealth Planning process, which is our model of financial life planning, which guides clients through 5 stages and 4 inquiry categories. These are the types of conversations that you have. So Please let me know if you want to learn more. MoneyQuotient.com.